The film begins with our protagonist, Craig Schwartz, a talented puppeteer. Despite his ambitions, he has had little success at work and is struggling to make a living. Craig is married to a woman named Elle, but they don't appear to be happy. She is obsessed with animals and has filled their home with a bird, chimp, dog, and cat. That her husband devotes the majority of his time to a hobby and frequently advises him to find a more stable job. Craig comes across a newspaper ad for a file clerk position at Lester Corp. When he arrives, he discovers that the company is located on the 7th-and-a-half floor with a very low ceiling. This requires employees to bend down while walking, which creates a very uncomfortable situation. Craig meets Dr. Lester, the company's CEO, who appears to be a warm and friendly elderly man. After a brief conversation, Lester easily offers him the job and leads him to the orientation room. Craig enters the room and starts watching an orientation video. The video explains that the structure was built in the 1880s by a man named Marin Flemmer, whose wife was a dwarf. She frequently felt insecure and overlooked, so Marin created this space to make her feel appreciated after finishing the video. Craig looks around and sees an unattractive woman sitting in a chair. He tries to strike up a conversation with her, but she seems uninterested and ignores him. The next day at the office, Craig approaches the attractive woman again and tries to flirt with her. He states that he doesn't know her name or the department she works in. Craig then suggests playing a game where he'll guess her name, and if he's correct, she'll have to go out with him. The woman readily agrees because she knows he'll never get it right. But after some thinking, he says Maxine, leaving her speechless. In the evening, we see the two of them having drinks. Craig appears nervous and struggles to talk confidently with her, which leads Maxine to believe that he is gay, but Craig clarifies that he is not. He also admits that he wants to make love to her. The two then begin to open up about each other, and Craig reveals that he is a puppeteer. Unfortunately, Maxine is repulsed by this and immediately ends their date. I don't care if you're married. If you play with puppets, you might as well be gay and disappointed. Craig goes home and apologizes to his wife for being late. He later goes to his workshop and starts making puppets of Maxine and himself. He then has the two puppets engage in a romantic conversation that culminates in a kiss. Craig approaches Maxine again at work the next day and admits to her that he has fallen in love with her. He tells her that he has never felt such a connection with anyone, including his wife. However, she coldly rejects him, claiming that she is uninterested in puppeteers. This breaks the poor guy's heart, so he goes back to his office and starts organizing his files. During this, a document falls to the floor, and he must lift a cupboard to retrieve it. Craig then accidentally discovers a mysterious tunnel behind the cupboard. He enters without thinking, and the door quickly closes behind him with a loud bang. Craig tries to figure out what is going on, but he is suddenly pulled. In the following scene, he is drawn inside by a mysterious force and begins to see the world through the eyes of another person. The person walks around a house before stopping in front of a mirror. Craig is surprised to learn that he is a famous actor. John Malkovich, JN, then leaves the house and enters a U. Even the driver recognizes him and commends his work. Craig is astounded to see life through the eyes of such a superstar, but after 15 minutes, he finds himself in a ditch near the city freeway. Craig returns to the office, amazed by his experience, and attempts to explain what he witnessed to Maxine. He tells her how he entered John Malovich's mind and saw the world through his eyes, but she ignores him, believing he is making excuses to talk to her. That evening, Craig receives a call from Maxine while at home. She has been reflecting on what he said and hopes to turn it into a profitable business. Craig is initially hesitant because he does not want to exploit the strange phenomenon, but after some convincing, he agrees. Craig and Elle then go to Lester's house for dinner, where he tells her the secret of the portal. Elle is intrigued by the bizarre event and expresses her desire to participate as well. Craig agrees and leads her to his office, where she enters the same tunnel. Moments later, Elle finds herself in the mind of John Malkovich. She is overjoyed with the experience, but after 15 minutes, she is abruptly back in the ditch where Craig is waiting. Elle is eager to do it again, but Craig refuses, reminding her that they will be late for their dinner. The couple soon arrives at Lester's house, where the elderly man greets them warmly while they eat dinner. La excuses herself to use the restroom, but has trouble finding it. Instead, she discovers a room full of photos of John Malkovich. Elle is taken aback by this, and later shares it with Craig on the way home. They are unsure of Dr. Last's relationship with John, but they believe the old man is aware of the portal. Craig and Maxine are discussing the idea of placing an advertisement in the newspaper about their business the next day at work. This is when Elle unexpectedly appears, surprising them both. Craig is certainly annoyed by his wife's unexpected arrival, but he has no choice but to introduce the two women shortly after Elle says that her experience last night was surreal, and she now believes she is transsexual. Craig becomes enraged after hearing this and calls it ridiculous. They almost have an argument, but Maxine intervenes and asks Craig to let his wife enter the portal again later. Maxine gets John's personal phone number and calls him. She claims to be a huge fan and requests to meet that evening. John is accustomed to such calls and proceeds to hang up, but she quickly tells him the time and the name of the restaurant after the call ends. John thinks for a while before deciding to meet this new woman, while Elle, who is currently inside John's mind, learns of the plan. She then requests that Craig take her to the portal at 8 p.m., but does not explain why we see Maxine and John on their date in the evening, and he appears to be captivated by her beauty. Elle, who is inside his head, finds Maxine attractive and begins to fall in love with her. The latter notices this right away but doesn't seem to care. After approximately 15 minutes, Elle is ejected back into the ditch, and she returns home with her husband the next day. Kra and Maxine find their first customer, an insecure, overweight man who eagerly pays $200 to feel like John Novich for a brief moment. The scene then shifts to the evening, when Maxine is having dinner with the couple at their home. Later, they all sit down for a weed session, during which Kay and Elle unexpectedly kiss Maxine, but she quickly pushes them away and states unequivocally that she is not interested in Craig. She also informs Elle she is smitten with her, but only when she is inside John's head. Maxine then leaves the house, leaving the couple staring awkwardly at each other, attempting to figure out how to turn this into a four-person three-way over the next few days. Maxine begins a relationship with John, but she only makes love to him when Elle is present in his mind during their intimate moments. She even addresses him by the name Elle. John finds this strange, but he chooses to ignore it because he doesn't want to miss the opportunity to be with such an attractive woman. Meanwhile, Craig becomes increasingly depressed as he realizes that both women in his life have left him for each other. Craig still has his puppets, but one evening when Elle returns home, he accuses her of betraying him and ties her up. He then forces her to call Maxine and set up a meeting using John's body. The terrified woman agrees, but rather than releasing her, Craig locks her in a cage with her chimpanzee. He then goes through the portal and, using John's body, eventually makes love to Maxine. However, Craig becomes overly excited and repeatedly tells John to touch her breasts. This freaks out the superstar, who realizes someone is speaking through his body. Craig later returns home and proudly tells his wife about how he made love with Maxine somewhere else. JN meets with a friend and confesses that something troubling is happening to him. He explains that he feels like someone else is controlling his body, which began when he met Maxine. His friend simply laughs it off and suggests that Maxine might have been stoned, but John suspects she is a witch with supernatural abilities. One evening, he arrives at her office and discovers a long line of people who claim to be waiting for the opportunity to enter John Malkovich's mind. This freaks him out, so he attempts to cut the line and enter the portal first. The others try to stop him, but they quickly discover that it is John Malkovich himself. Shortly after confronting Maxine and accusing her of toying with his life, he insists on going through the portal and seeing what happens. Craig is hesitant and warns that it is dangerous, but Maxine urges him to let John go. Following this, John enters the portal and finds himself in a strange restaurant world where everyone resembles him. Even more bizarrely, no one says anything other than the word Malkovich. This freaks John out, and he quickly finds himself back in the ditch, where Craig is waiting for him. He demands that Craig close the portal permanently because he can't take it anymore. However, the latter refuses, claiming that the portal is its source, income that he cannot afford to lose. John threatens to sue Craig, but Craig is unconcerned because he knows how to control the man elsewhere. Elle remains in the cage, but her beloved chimp senses her pain and cleverly releases her ties. The woman is overjoyed and tears up as she hugs the chimp. Following this, she calls Maxine and tells her how Craig has been holding her hostage. She also reveals that Craig, not she, has been making love to her over the last few days, which is surprising. Of being upset, Maxine is impressed by Craig's ability to manipulate John. Her words break Elle's heart because she believed Maxine loved her. Maxine admits she loves her but is currently confused. After that, she goes to see JN, who tries to keep her out. Craig quickly takes over the superstar's body and they begin to make love. This film is ampoise. He demonstrates to Maxine how to manipulate John's body like a puppeteer. He says the puppets were hot. He states that John has finally, after 15 minutes, they regained complete control of John and were no longer ejected. The two then decide that Craig should permanently live inside John and use his money to fund their lavish lifestyle elsewhere. A distraught Elle approaches Seller and explains the entire situation to him. The old man does not appear surprised, revealing that he is well aware of the portal. His real name is Miron Flemmer, and he built the office building. He reveals that he has been using the portal for many years to attain eternal life. He has been inhabiting the bodies of guests such as John and a group of elderly people with the intention of permanently taking over John's body on his 44th birthday. He repeatedly warns them not to use the portal again because it will no longer lead to John, but to a completely different conscience in which they will be trapped indefinitely as powerless observers. He then leads Elle into a room and introduces her to his old friends. 8 months later, Craig is still inside John's mind and married to Maxine, now pregnant. Craig has successfully transitioned John's career from actor to puppeteer in recent months, gaining a lot of fame. However, Maxine appears to be unhappy and misses a lot. Craig returns home from a puppet show where he was honored for his upcoming 44th birthday, but he becomes worried when he learns that his beloved wife is missing. Soon after, he receives a call from Dr. Lester, who demands that he leave John's body or they will kill his wife. Craig is in a difficult situation because without John, he will return to his unhappy life. The scene then shifts to Maxine, who is being held captive by Lester and Elle. The old man reveals that Craig hung up on him, which enrages Elle even further. She decides that if she can't have Maxine, no one can, so she attacks her to save herself. Maxine enters the portal, and Elle follows her with a gun. They then travel through John's subconscious memories, from childhood to adolescence and adulthood. After a while, Maxine returns to the ditch, where Elle continues her onslaught. But before she can shoot, she reveals that Elle is the parent of her child. She explains that the baby was conceived while they were making love via John, and that is the only reason she chose to keep it. This makes a lot of emotional sense, while the two women embrace and express their love on the other hand. Lester keeps pressuring Craig, who eventually decides to leave John's body to save his wife. He soon arrives at the ditch and sees the two women hugging each other. Craig informs Maxine that he has left John's body to save her, but she does not appear to care. The women then abandon him and flee in a car elsewhere. We see Lester and his friends approaching the portal, preparing to permanently take over John's body. The scene shifts to 7 years later, when Maxine and LA are married and enjoying life with their daughter Emily. However, a shocking twist emerges. Craig is actually trapped in Emily's mind. He actually returned to the portal that night, but it was too late, and he became trapped. Now, all he can do is watch his ex-wives live happily through the eyes of their young daughter. Subscribe for more videos like this, enable notifications, and leave a like to support the channel.